everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The GOAT. I'm so excited to have a couple guests here, Dr. James Goat and Dr. Angel Goat. Did I call you guys Goat?
Hey, I'll take that.
Oh my God, I can't believe because I'm thinking the GOAT, the GOAT, the GOAT. Okay, Dr. James Byrd and Dr. Angel Byrd, not Goat. Okay. But tonight, I want to talk about a little bit before we go on and talk to you two folks about last week's episode. We met with Kim Williams last week about her personal struggles and what she has overcome to be the champion that she is. She's trying out for the Olympics in high jumping, and she overcame personal challenges, and she expressed those challenges on our show that I was in tears. It was overcoming, watching her brother die, overcoming molestation, overcoming these challenges, and using sports as the outlet to get her to get help even. So she went on and she was struggling with anxiety because of the PTSD that she suffered, but she got help. And now she's going to be trying out for the Olympics for 2021. Yay, Kim, we're so excited.
Yeah.
That was so cool. But something I want to talk about tonight that is so important to me is I've been in this business working with athletes for about 30 years. And when I work with athletes, what I have found is great athletes usually have an advantage. They have an opportunity that maybe other athletes didn't have. And that is parents that are supportive, parents that are GOAT parents, actually, in my mind. And yes, I am going with GOAT this time. Being a parent of an athlete, and especially when it comes to an elite athlete and an athlete that wants to give more time than they probably should and dedicate more hours and not set healthy boundaries and all these things that parents really struggle with. What do we do? How do we handle this? How do we discipline? If they're poor sports, do we get on them? Or if they play bad, do we get on them? What do we do if they have a bad game? So I have so many questions for you two tonight. I'm so excited that we have you, especially because we had an episode of J2, their son, and it was episode number 7. It was called The Road to Greatness. And there he is right there. And this young man, the story that he told me, he didn't play varsity basketball until he was a senior because of injuries and school problems and situations. And he never quit, and he never lost his dream of wanting to be the best and continue on and play college basketball. And it's like, wow, you didn't really get to play until you were a senior. And that was so cool to me to hear his story. But a little bit about you two that I want to start out the show with is, and I better read it because I will probably blow it all. You're marriage and family counselors. You own a practice called Flourishing Marriages. Let me see. You have a podcast called All the Way Live with the Byrds.
Yes.
And you have 3 beautiful kids.
Absolutely.
And there's probably a lot more that I could talk about, but I really want to get into the topic of the show today is parenting is for the birds. No pun intended, but yes, pun intended. What do you think about the parenting perspective on athletes? Tell me about, is it for the birds or is it valuable? What do you guys think?
Personally, I think the parenting perspective on athletes can be tough in this sense because you hear so much from so many different people, and it kind of puts expectations on you on how you should parent your child.
Right.
And then you hear these stories of how maybe the Williams sisters, how their parented them, and how Tiger was parented. And so you hear the stories of the greatest of the greats, of the GOATs, and how their parents parent them. And then now maybe you're expected to maybe do something like that. And but every child is different.
Yeah.
Right.
And every child has a different personality and a different, can get something different out of sports. We know only a certain small, minute percent of them are going to play at the highest level,
Right.
concerning pro and things like that. And so there's so much more to get out of sports with your child than just this goal of they're going to be this elite all-star in the NBA or, at the highest pro level.
Right. But as a parent, you got to really understand the value of that the sport can bring, and them just playing and interacting, being on a team, and not make it all about the winning.
Yeah.
Oh, my child's got to win. They got to be better. They got to perform better. That's what parents get tied up in so often, because they know their child wants to win and they want their child to win so bad. But if it doesn't happen, the child usually feels like they're letting down the parents.
Yeah.
And there's somebody that's sitting here with the two of us that fell into that early. I fell into that earlier, and before I got into my psychology classes and things like that, and really learned the psychology of people and how they think. And I realized that, that's just not the way to go. I coached a lot with my son and teams that he was on and things like that. And I had to really learn and grow a lot in the aspect of how to deal with each child, differently. There's this thing about parents and about kids that, if you're going to be hard on them, just as long as you hard on all of them equally the same, then, that's fair, but that's just not the right way to be, because they all can't handle it the same.
Right. They're different people.
Different people. And I used to always say, these kids are not playing professional basketball or whatever sport it is. Why are these parents acting like this?
Right.
I couldn't comprehend it, because I'm like, they're not even in the league and they're in the 6th grade. What are we doing here? I never could comprehend that, because they were like acting like we were watching an NBA championship game at a 6th grade basketball game. And so it was a lot for me to have to process and watch how parents would be so angry.
Right.
And it was just a lot for children to have to deal with and have to ride home and hear.
Exactly. And these are the things that I've worked on with parents for the past 30 years individually. Usually it's like I work with the kid, and then they end up telling the parents, you know what, I don't want to hear all the bad things that I did on the way home.
Yeah.
And I help them to get their voice and to be able to talk to their parents. But a lot of times parents don't even know what they're doing with it. They have no idea. They're trying to start a conversation. They're trying to keep it going, but it's pressure to the child. It's like, I know I played bad. I know I did this. I know. And so knowing what to say with a kid when they lose is important for parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to give your child a voice. You got to give your child the opportunity to tell you, what do they want? I remember having to ask my son, what do you want me to be? Do you want me to be tough on you? Do you want me to push you?
Right.
If you want me to push you and you have this goal and you have this target that you're heading, you want me to push you, I'll push you. But if you want me just to stand back and just support you, and I'll support you, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And so you have to ask the child, what do they want?
Because so many parents make it their journey.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily intentionally doing that, I don't think, but they do. And so then it becomes, I want this for my child. I want this for my child. And so exactly what you say here, James, it's like, give your child the voice. Let them say, how important is this to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to go to extra practices, if you want to spend more time, we'll help provide that, but we're not going to force you to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I believe what parents don't understand, and some of us early on don't understand, is that what you're doing is shaping your child. Are you teaching them to perform? Are you going to teach them when they make a mistake, the whole world has come to an end because they didn't win? And so you're shaping a child that's going to become an adult and have a hard time dealing with situations because they wasn't maybe the best at it, or they didn't win every situation.
Right.
And so you're creating something that we don't want to see in the future.
You're 100% right. And what that causes a fear of it, a fear of losing, a fear of looking bad, a fear of all that, because you know what? They're afraid of it. It's like, I don't want to lose. And you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? It's part of the game, It's not something to fear.
And to any parents that are listening out there that are still involved in it with young children, things like that, listen, I understand it's tough because you're emotionally caught up in it. It's your baby, and your emotions ride with them. And when the referee calls a foul against your child and you don't think it was a foul,
right.
I mean,
I'm going nuts.
all of a sudden you're screaming like it's the NBA. You know, I mean, it's emotional and it's tough, and you got to be careful. You got to step back and think about the child.
Well, and that's one of the keys, I think, James, is when, and both of you, it's like when you are in the audience, when you're performing, just like the kid is. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're up there embarrassing them and saying all these things, and I know my parents did it, and I haven't had to do it because my daughter's only in band. But up there and yell, I guess they can't hear me or something. But I get it. It's like you guys are, how you are representing yourself up there is that's on the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think more coaches should not only coach the kids, but they should coach the parents.
Bingo. Because it's not an easy role.
It's
not. It's hard to know, what do I do? And there's got to be clear separation and boundaries between coaches and parents, because if they get too enmeshed, the kids got to have their parents to be able to go talk to. Yeah. So it's like when I'm struggling with my coach, I got to go to mom and dad and say, hey, man, I need some help here. What am I doing? I got this going on. So that boundary is really important, but nobody teaches it. Nobody knows what that is. You know, I work at a tennis club and I see all these parents talking to the coaches, and then the kids come into me and say, oh, my parents and coaches been talking about me. And and I'm like, no, we don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a very tough dynamic, and what helped me is being a coach for a lot of his younger years, and then stepping back and being the parent, seeing that dynamic. And I had to, you know, I would often talk to him and be like, what is your coach is saying? I wanted to know what his coach was saying.
Right.
I wanted to try to make sure that I wasn't at home telling him something that came against what his coach was saying.
Right. Good.
It wasn't going to be good for him if he going out there and he's trying to ignore what his coach is saying and do something totally different.
Right. Exactly.
So I tried to know as many different strategies as I could. And so whatever that coach was teaching, even if it wasn't been my personal choice to teach, I still made him understand, okay, this is what he's thinking, and this is what he's trying to do.
You got to, as a parent, support the coach in that arena because they're the coach. The cool part is you wore both hats, James, and that's a question that I would like to ask with that is, was that difficult coaching your own child? Were you harder on them? Were you easier on them? Was that hard?
Early on, I didn't know things. So I was caught up in the emotions of everything. Right. And you, as a parent coaching your son, you see the good plays that your son, you see the potential in your son, and you tend to ignore that the bad plays that happen too often or something like that. And so you think higher of them at a certain time, you know, than they are. And so you push them to that excellence. And when they don't meet that, you like, what's going on? What's wrong? And instead of just being real with yourself and real with your child, that this is where you're at right now. You need development. You're good here. You're not good here. You're not consistent. You need development. And I'm here to help you. And so coaching my son, I loved it because I had a great relationship with him. But when it came time to, when he really wanted to be pushed, and I knew he needed to be pushed, then I chose to step back from coaching him.
Right.
And I said, and it was difficult for him because I've been a coach with him every sport, every step of the way from childhood. Yeah. And then for me to tell him that, hey, I'm going to step back from coaching you, and I'm going to put you with people that can push you. Because if I push you the way you need to be pushed, it could damage our relationship.
Right. Wow. That's pretty serious insight that you had with that. That's really cool.
Yeah. We cared more about the relationship that we have with our children than you know what, because you've seen parents push children, and children they may become good, may become great at it, but then they don't have the relationship with their parents.
They're resentful of their parents. Usually they were pushed and it wasn't their choice and their decision, and they didn't do it on their own. They were forced to do it. And I see that all the time, and I hate it. I get so frustrated. It's like I always say, no, let the kid decide how good they want to be. Provide them those opportunities. Be there for them if they want to be great, but it's not your decision to be great or not. It's a lot of work.
That's what people, and a lot of people don't understand that about Tiger Woods, that
Right.
he wanted to always be at the golf course. It wasn't Earl forcing him to be there. It wasn't his mom forcing him to be there. He was like, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. And that's how it should be.
Exactly. When they want to do that, that's a totally different story. You know, I have a little, as I was growing up, it's like I didn't really want to do that because I got nervous and anxious and I would get so worked up, but I was good.
Yeah.
You know, I was good, so I couldn't really quit. Like, God, I want to quit. Well, I want to go to another question. Is I know that there was a lot of decisions in his that he had to make going through his high school years, and decisions and challenges that he had. And one of the big things that I find with parents is, how much do I carry? How much do I let him learn the lessons? How much do I, like, he's got to face the coach? I don't go in and talk to the coach. How much of that did you folks provide? And what did that look like for you and him?
I think for the most part, we try to talk to him about the options of his choices in the situations, and then allow him to make a choice, giving him as much information as we thought on both ends, and let him make a choice and say to him that whatever choice you choose to make, we want you to live with it and understand that this is your choice to live with it. This is not my journey.
Right. Ooh,
I tell you about my journey, but this is not my journey. This is your journey.
oh, okay. Julie, highlight that, put a little caption. Not my journey.
Yeah.
I can't tell you those words, how important. If I could just say them and people would get it, like vicariously went on. Thanks, Julie. It's not, and the way, that's such a delicate, fine line. And I've been on that line, and I've seen thousands of parents on that line, and they don't think they're doing it. But to actually step back and say, this is not my journey. You have to decide if you want this or not, is the thing that I wish every parent could do.
Yeah. And I would say to that question is, once he got to was it the 10th grade or 11th grade? Was 11th grade when he stopped playing, or the 10th? Junior year.
Yes, that was his junior year.
So growing up, we taught him, not to quit and things like that. Yeah. But as a mother, I was at the game, and I knew you have to know to your child's breaking point when enough is enough.
Right.
And so that game, I saw my son, and I saw if something didn't happen, that this could go downhill really fast. And so I called my son over literally to the side over there on his break when they were playing. I can still see him over at Park Hill South playing. And I had a conversation with him. I said, you tell me what you want to do, and that's what we'll do.
Right.
Because I knew that he had taken all that he can take of what he was dealing with.
Right.
And so I wasn't going to just sit there and allow it to keep happening, because now it turned into a form of, to me, abuse.
Yeah.
And so now it's time for me as a parent to step in and say, I don't care what your decision is at this point. I will accept it and respect it.
Wow.
And that was the day that he turned in his uniform in his junior year, and was done until the new coach came for his senior year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot for me that day, and it was a lot for him that day.
I can't imagine your position as a parent. And you said something that I have been working with parents, and a lot of gymnastics parents. And I'm just going to give an example of one of the gymnasts that was coming in. She was really literally being verbally abused at every practice, just humiliated, embarrassed. And when the mother came in, I said, do you realize that you're paying this gentleman to abuse your daughter?
Mm.
And at that point, she went and she got the parents together and they did a little thing, a stand, and they went and it changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it was so true. It's like
Yeah.
we shouldn't allow people to abuse our children.
Absolutely.
It's like that's how the Olympic gymnastics got to where it was. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that stuff was going on in so many sports. So it's like if something like that is occurring, and this is where Jeff, the parents, step in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is your role. And I also think, if your kid's out there punching people
Yeah.
in a bad sport, I think the parents have a role in that. The coach has a certain role, there's rules, but
Mm-hmm.
you've taught them life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sportsmanship is hopefully one of those good things that you've taught them.
Yeah.
Sports provide so many opportunities to teach life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because after that, after he gave his uniform, he showed up at the next game and the next game until the season was over and supported them every single game without missing.
I love that.
Yeah, cheerfully.
His heart when I was interviewing him just about made me cry, man. It's like the dude is a good, solid kid, and there's no way because he's so young. So what are some of the challenges that you feel like you look back, hindsight? I know that we made some mistakes. What do you maybe wish you would have done different? Or with J2, I know in his situations, what do you wish you might have done different or feel bad about or not?
I probably would have left him at Bishop age instead of transferring him. That's one of the things I wished I wouldn't have done. Yeah. And we had a major conversation about it. And so I wished I would have left him at Bishop age versus transferring him over to Park Hill South.
Okay.
And I was okay with him making that decision.
Yeah.
If that's where he wanted to, if he wanted to go with it, and if that's what he wanted to do, I was okay with him making that. And personally, I believe that I believe that he went through some tough things in making that move, but I think it worked out for the best for him because he ended up leading his team to state, ended up playing against Jason Tatum and beating Jason Tatum and guarding Jason Tatum himself. And he learned to overcome the odds seemingly against him. And you can't fake situations like that. I mean, for a situation like that to present itself for your child, and I want that situation to present itself for my child while I'm still here, while he's still in my home, to help him do that.
Right, 100%. It's like we want those situations to occur while they're home and struggle while they're at home, so we're there and to provide them the support, because when they get out there, it's different. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And that's go ahead.
I'll just say it's also a difficult thing on the parents because we're torn on what he should do. She loved Bishop Miege. They had all these male teachers and she liked the male presence of teachers in his life and things like that. And sports is not everything. And we understand that, but also you got a kid that really wanted to play basketball at a certain level. And so we're torn at that. And so we had to come to an agreement that, okay, well, whatever decision he makes, we're going to have to support it. And when that bad junior year happened, that was tough because I could feel her like, we should have stayed at Bishop Miege.
Right.
And I'm just like riding it out. And then his senior year, he gets a new coach that supports him and he goes to state or whatever. And I'm like, okay, it was tough. It was worth it. And I'm not saying that had he not stayed at Bishop Miege, things would not have worked out. I don't know. Right. But you can't put together a situation like that he has to struggle with and overcome.
So some things that you're saying today, just me as a therapist and the lessons that we try to protect our kids from too often, it's like those are usually the lessons that to learn. It's so important for them to learn And it's like, but we want to protect them so much. And so to step back and let them fail and us be there at that time is so valuable for parents to hear. It's like, don't control these things. You know, you can keep them out of trouble if you hovered over them all the time and, oh, don't do that, don't do that. But it's like, that's not giving them the chance to fail and learn and come to you guys and go forward. So it's like, I love that you see that, because I think being a great parent is part of letting your kids fail. And that's such a hard thing to do. It really is.
Like death. It feels like that at times, you know. It's like, oh my God. And that's one thing that we taught people during this process of with J2 is that God created me female. He created him male. So my response is not going to be his response, and his response are not going to be mine, because I wasn't created to act like him. And so he had to allow me to be a mother, and I had to allow him to be a father. And so a lot of people have a hard time, because in the beginning we had a hard time doing that. And he was like, don't baby him or don't do this. And I'm like, I'm a mother. That's what we do. And I can say, don't be so tough on him. And he like, I'm a father. That's what I do. And so we had to have a balance and understand that we are parenting based on what we were created to do.
Right.
And so we really being able to be able to shift during that time.
And to use it to come together. It's like, I know you guys started as probably the typical young kid, parents getting excited, all that kind of stuff. And then you grew and you learned and all this. And then, but you guys' goals sound like it remains similar as far as we want the best for our child.
Absolutely.
You know, we want what is best for them. And a lot of that is letting them figure this out themselves.
Yes.
And we would tell our children, and I would tell J2, listen, I love sports, and I know you do too. And man, it'd be great for you to go play D1 college basketball, to go play pro basketball, things like that. But listen to me, as a father, if you never set foot on a pro court, it's not going to change who you are to me and how much I love you and how proud I am of you. It's all I care about is that you enjoy yourself and do your best. And wherever that leads you and wherever that takes you, I'm absolutely okay with that.
Bingo.
And that's what we had to continue to tell him and tell our children, that whatever you choose to do, we support you. We're here for you, and we're happy about that. And I'm not going to live some missed dream opportunity through you. That's not what this is about.
Yeah, because my daughter Joy ran track all the way up through high school, senior year, and she was going to KU. And I'm like, she's running track at KU. And she decided right before school started, I decided that I don't want to run track in college. And we were like, what? And she was done, and just was done with it. And so we just had to eat it, accept it, and let her do her thing.
I remember at first my wife comes, she's like, I know you're not going to let your daughter quit. I know. You always said, we don't quit. I know we don't quit. So I know you're not going to let your daughter quit. And but I was like, listen, if she doesn't love it and don't want to do it
anymore,
then you know what? Hey,
why would we make her?
Why would we make her?
Wow,
And now she just, and my wife always kept making sure that she paid attention to her and was like, what do you want to do? Do something that you love and that you're passionate about. And we see her falling into her passions month by month, year by year. And we're so excited.
And now she's in Yahoo sports magazines and in sports magazines for her workout gear, because she wanted to be a fashion designer. Now her clothes are selling nationally all over the world. And it was like, oh my God, but she's still in the sports thing, you see? And so it's,
same way with me. I had to figure out, how can I stay in sports, because I love to do it so much. But I love that. Hey, I want to ask another big question. And here, we're getting down to the end of our time here. And I want to make sure that, what advice, because you've given so much already that is right, spot on. But I do want to make sure that I get, what advice would you give of an young or parents of young athletes or middle-aged athletes that would probably give their children the best opportunity to succeed? Because you guys have done a good job, and I see the lessons that you've learned.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I would say to a parent is make sure that's what the child want and that's not what you want to start out the gate. And then during their time of playing whatever sport that it is, that you're giving them more encouragement than criticism.
Yes.
Because I watch it be first criticism and then it comes later and say, well, you did okay. I'd rather for you to give them the good side and allow them to tell you what they think they did wrong.
Sure.
To try to, to teach them so they can be able to see it. What do you think, if you watch film, what do you think you did in that game that you could have did better? But the way that I watch parents do it, it is so damaging, and it changes the whole DNA of your child, and they just become, it just hurts to watch.
Do you know, one thing that I encourage parents to do with that, and kids and athletes, is I always have them go through 3 questions when they're done with every competition. What did you learn? How can you use that moving forward? And what were 3 positives that came out of it? And when parents engage like that, it's like, what did you learn? The kid gets to figure out what they learned, and how are you going to use that next game? Oh, I'm going to do this and this, and then make them find the positives. It's like, if they can find positives after a loss, we taught them something very healthy.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's real good.
And I would say, in this age of information, I would advise parents to get out on YouTube and search things about psychology. And the psychology of kids, and get to know about the psychology of the human being and of your kid, and take that information that you get by watching these videos, some teachers out there teaching psychology, and then apply that to your child and get to understand the personality of your child. If you have multiple children, they're not all going to have the exact same personality. They're not going to all have the exact same drive. And so you can't compare one to the other necessarily. Or he loves it. He's out there working hard every day. After school, he comes home, he's out there working, and you don't go unless I make you go.
Yeah.
You got to get to know each child differently and do what's best for that child.
Wow, that kind of teased me up for a little self-promo. We have a parenting series video coming out that is going to be on what role do parents play? What is the best place for you? Is it pregame, getting them ready the night before? How do you, the morning of, do they have a routine? How can you support those things? So I've got a video that talks a lot about what you just said, the psychology of being a parent and watching your kids and supporting them in different ways. So little self promo, it's out right now, and we're in the production phase. So
all right,
come to look, now we got the GOAT tip of the week.
Hey,
tip of the week. And what it is shut up and listen. Because to be quite honest, and you folks get this, but what so many parents don't realize is we want to fix too often. We want to come in and tell them what to do. We want to do all these things, and very rarely do we listen to our kids. And one of the things that I would so much suggest is, if you can work on, as a parent, listening more than you're telling, because the kids can figure out a lot of these lessons themselves, and then they own it, and then we're building leaders instead of followers, just doing what we tell them to do. It's I'm thinking it through. So the more we listen, the better we are at giving them opportunity to grow. So that's
like that.
You guys are great at it, though. I can tell right now. You might have had to progress through it, but when I talked to your son, and I went to my mom and my dad and talked to them about this when I was struggling, it's like, you did really well with that. and listening more than you're telling is so valuable, because then the kid gets to feel valuable.
Yeah.
So thank you both for being on the show tonight. I'm so excited to have you, and I wish you all the luck with your business, and I will send people your way because you both make me smile.
Well,
So,
what you just share for people with their kids is great advice in any relationship, marriage, friends, siblings, working relationship. Listen more to people. So I love that.
yeah. And I can tell you both do a good job with that. So thank you both, and we'll see you all next week, folks. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.